So this is going to be an actual bona fide rant. And I'm gonna and it's really like kind of two rants in one, but they're very related. And I have been stewing on this for a few days. I even made a few notes as I was thinking about things. I'm not reading anything, as I generally don't, but I definitely, this is going to sound like more of a rant. And I use that word a lot, and I'll talk about that maybe later in the podcast. We'll see. And I'll, I might even touch on why I've had a few days to stew on this, but if this is probably going to be like what a bona fide actual rant sounds like from me. And I'm going to talk about fucking robocallers. I'm sorry to like F bomb out the gate, but it's like there's three types of calls I get mostly. So, and in the way that I know that these are happening is because there isn't a name attached to it. I do not answer unidentified calls. I don't. So if your ringtone, because I do have special ringtones for a few people, my children and my sisters primarily, and if your ringtone doesn't come up or the name doesn't say something like insert friend here, I'm not answering the call. Because primarily in my life, the three people who want to get in touch with me are folks who want money from me, like bill collectors, because, I've sometimes had to deal with that. My other actual real favorite is scams. People who are suing me, who, there's legal action. Somebody's going to be at my house and serve me papers. I cannot tell you how many voicemails I get like this. At least they leave a voicemail, I guess. Or politics right now, of course, that's the primary. Although I've noticed that they're mostly going to texts and telling them to fuck off, which is what I was originally doing. Now I just delete them because I realize that by responding, I'm giving them some leverage of understanding what I'm giving them an opportunity to make a judgment about where my mind is politically, because I was saying it to whomever was texting me. So, because I don't, and this is how I get into the real rant. Like, the political texting and advertising in the way that we have allowed ourselves to be sold a bill of goods through political advertisement is disgusting. Like, this is my real rant. Every day now, well, not every day because we only check mail a couple times a week. It's not, in Arizona, most folks, unless you live kind of more rurally, live in HOAs, at least, well, unless you live in the early development of the city. And I live in a city that has mostly subdivisions in it and HOAs and such, which is a whole nother rant. And I didn't even start on that. The mailbox luckily for us, it's just around the corner. So my son generally picks up the mail on his way home from school or after he goes to work out in the pool or something like this. But, and sometimes I go too. It depends. I mostly stay in my house because, COVID-19, and I was laid off. So, but here's the problem I have. So he brought in the mail today, and this has been happening for the last week. We've been checking the mail because we were waiting for some different things. One was a check. Well, actually, two were a check, and one was a package. So we've been waiting for some different stuff, and he brings in the mail today, and it reminds me again. I'm not counting. I'm not keeping some sort of numerical, like, provable count. But I have noticed that most of the advertisements that I am getting of those, those very high gloss, very, some of them are very, they're, they're either for a Democrat or against Trump. I, I don't think I've seen an ad that was a pro Trump, like kind of paper thing. But I have seen his picture on lots of stuff. I do not read them. I give them I literally shuffle them into the same immediate to recycling pile as I do like ads for, whatever. I, 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 I try really hard. I occasionally will take a look at the local grocery ad. And most of the time that's because, I happen to be drinking my coffee, and in the morning I like to read or look at things that are, whatever. That wasn't good. I like to I've always been like a cereal box reader, the tampon box reader. Like I like to sit and read and then think. And I think I read manuals. I read the paper that comes with I just got a new vacuum and a steam mop. I read both of those little manuals. I read. I generally will read stuff just as an educate myself, particularly about stuff I own or things that go into my body, like food, etc. So I'm almost always. I almost always throw advertisements immediately into the recycling. And then I had this other thought. Besides, I'm going to get to, I'm going to just do this real quick sidestep to, I cannot believe how incredibly, I'm really fired up about this, hypocritical it is that all these progressive Democrat candidates who constantly talk about global warming and global issues are sending me this crap on that they have paid for to be kill trees. It's a joke. I joke all the time at the store when they ask me if I want a bag for something and I have like two things. I'll joke. I'm like, let's save a paper bag, a tree, or and I said a plastic tree. That's what I normally say now because most bags are plastic. I'm like, go ahead and save a plastic tree. I can carry these out. Like if it's, but I do believe this. Up until COVID, I primarily shopped with reusable bags. Like I'm pretty stringent with recycling, and not because I think that what's the word not because I'm just joining a bandwagon. I've been teaching my children for years how to be consciously aware of their ecological footprint. And I'm not saying we're great at it, but at least it's something that's been part of what I have given my children. And I think that the fact that a vast majority, there may have been a couple of Republican ads in there. I'm not putting this on one party or another, but if a Democrat, sorry, candidate is sending me a high gloss paper advertisement for their campaign, then they're a hypocrite. And it's infuriating because if you're going to talk smack about global warming, then you should not, in this day and age, be using any kind of paper advertisement for your campaign. We live in a technological society. And let's be real. Your constituents, your party, your, what is that word, base, your base is not reading these advertisements. They're young, they're progressive, you know, they're not older folks who are still relying on paper advertisements to tell them how to feel about politicians. So the fact that you are using this platform is disgusting, and stop it. Okay, so that's how my rants go. And I, I could go off for probably several more minutes about how I'm super tired of like trauma-based advertisement about politicians. I'm incredibly like I don't really. Here's what I do. You want to know what I do? I go and I look up the actual candidates. I look up their website first because, for the most part, they tell you everything you need to know about them. And, of course they're giving the, sugar-coated, fancy, reach as big of a base of many voters as possible type of view of them, but at least you can first see what they look like. And then if they have served in other offices, if they have done other I do my best to actually research the candidates themselves. And I'm not going to tell people how to vote. I'm not going to tell people what you should or shouldn't do. But I will, as far as what you tick on the box when you go into the booth, because that's not my that's not my business. That's we have this right. This is something we get to do ourselves. This is something we get to decide ourselves. This is something we get to have an active voice and actively participate in the governance of the country we live in. And we have a system that has been glorified. I'm looking for the right word. There's lots and lots and lots of countries out there that wish for what we have, that would love to have the kind of republic that we have with democratic voting, etc. So I'm not going to tell anybody what to do, but as far as when you walk into your polling place, or you fill out your mail-in ballot, or whatever you choose to do, what I am going to say is that if you want to really vote for your voice, I believe that you need to really look at the candidates that you're voting for and see what they really stand for and where they really have had previous experience, how they have behaved in past situations. I'm not picking on anyone. I don't like Trump at all, and I'm not voting for Biden. So, and I'm not telling anybody what to do, but what I'm saying is I've made this decision because I've investigated both of them to my satisfaction of how I feel about them. And I'm currently looking into somebody else, and I'm not going to drop her name yet, because I'm not 100% convinced that I'm going to vote for this person, but I'm digging in, I'm paying attention. I've looked up news articles, local stuff on her, and I keep saying her, and there's not a lot of her options that I possibly could vote for, so it's not going to be hard for you to figure it out if you're interested. But here is my main complaint about the way that we are constantly being nudged. Like, I'm not afraid of the boogeyman. I've never been afraid of the boogeyman. I've never had monsters in my closet or under my bed. There, there's never been and I've lived through some pretty traumatic fucking shit in my life, if I'm being honest. And that was a big F-bomb drop again. But I'm not afraid of some boogeyman out there. I am way more concerned about apathy and tacit agreement. And these words could be used for any party, any voter. If you're just checking a box because that's the way you've always voted, I beseech you to think outside of that box and ask yourself, do I want to keep voting against a boogeyman? Because let's get real, Trump sucks. I mean, here's the thing. He has done some good stuff. There's no doubt. I'm not going to argue with it. He's definitely got a good comedy routine that he takes on the road with him. But as a human being, as a person, and as a businessman, he has been unethical. He is a bully. He's the complete representation of the kind of person I would never in a million years respect as a human being, or even entertain talking to for more than it would take me to figure out that he's a douchebag. So there's no question that it's super easy to make him look like the boogeyman. But I'm not going to keep voting against a boogeyman. I'm going to vote for candidates I think actually want to make my life better, want to do good for this country, want to have a cohesive level of respect for personal rights and respect for the need for the appropriate amount of government. And I don't see that in either of the parties, and I haven't seen that in either of the major parties, Republican and Democratic, which is why I'm a proponent of third parties, because I see pandering, I see giving this lift all voices, build back better, all these, I see slogans, and it's become so frustrating, because I do think that many of us have the intelligence, the genuine passion and desire to really vote for who we believe in. And I know I got sucked into the trap for lots of years of voting Democrat, which I did for lots of my years. Actually, the first time I ever voted, it was not for a Democrat, just for the record. And I haven't voted for a Republican president ever, if I'm being honest. I have not. But I generally don't vote for either of those parties. And I've never been registered with either of those parties. So take that for what it is. This is the kind of thinking that I would love to have an actual engaged conversation with somebody. And I feel like if I even start to talk, that for sure the progressive voices of my friends and folks out there are going to shut down. And then the more conservative side of folks are going to be like, look, she's saying, this and this and this. And not really engage in a discussion. The response I get is, shut up, you're stupid, you're an idiot, or, of course, you're the greatest, I'm so glad. neither of those is a actual functional discussion. So that's what I have to say. What do you got to say? It's September 27th, 9:35 p.m. It's been a couple days since I've done one of these. I'm not sure exactly what you may never listen to this, and you may, I don't know. I've been kind of fighting some head and chest cold issues, mostly that I sound and cough and hack. That's been happening a lot lately. So I hope that you're in good health. I'm. If you've gotten this far and you're still listening, this is going to be Sunny Rambles On edition. Apparently, I'm a little long, so y'all take care now. We'll talk to you soon.